Review, Bonobo experience, 22nd of the 7th, 2018. What did I implement from last week? I managed to get royalty-free music. The reason I needed that is because XPLORE said that they were unable to use music that I'd already got because it wasn't royalty-free. So I've got some of that, which is great because it's kind of got me thinking more about the soundscapes I want to create, because there's new content in the music, so it got me out of a rut and it's made me be a bit creative and design some new sort of sounds for the experience. What I did, I went to Berlin, prepared some mailing lists and questionnaires and release forms and got them printed. That was really important because that was something I was dragging my heels on, because it's not my favourite space to be in, like writing forms and evaluation forms and whatnot. Who I spoke to about the Bonobo experience. So I spoke to Maai, also known as CHERISH, about being on the team, so he's interested in being involved, which is great. And we also spoke to, I also spoke to Kai at Stretch, who may be interested in me doing some work at the Stretch Festival, or no, more at the Village than the Stretch Festival, the Village being the venue out in Berlin. What did I think about? I thought about CHERISH's idea about queers in heterosexual space and heterosexuals in queer space, and what would it be like to have a space where there's one queer with a group of heterosexuals and then one heterosexual with a group of queers, and sort of playing out that space and that discomfort they both may feel in their sort of in their tribes, that they're tribes that they're not in, that are present in the same space that they may want to gravitate to. And that got me thinking about my process, about wanting to be in queer gay space, but also being very fearful about that because of the eyes and the conditioning around my life, around kind of the sort of heterosexual kind of norms that I've been brought up with, and then the sort of difficulty in going and doing that. So that was really interesting, and that moved on then from how about having a bonobo tribe and a chimp tribe, and if those two were inhabiting a similar space and people were acting in a chimp manner and people were acting in a bonobo manner, and then see how keeping them separate so that they don't meet each other, but feeling that transition moving from bonobo into chimp space, or from chimp space into bonobo space, and just sort of seeing what those two things are like, which kind of talks a bit about that with the like heterosexual space and the queer space. So that was really interesting. What else? Challenges. Getting the workshops designed for XPLORE, that was difficult because I'd never worked in a predominantly heterosexual environment with this work before, and my predictions around what it might be like to talk about queer apes, male apes that have intercourse or at least sort of sexually engage with one another in bonobo space, and what would that feel like for straight men to be in an environment where that was permitted from a bonobo standpoint. And my fears were that they would kind of internalise or be very nervous about what other men would be thinking and wanting to do in that space if they were feeling uncomfortable, and then gravitate more towards the females. And that's one of the things that concerns me about it. Personal developments. I'm nervous about and excited about the XPLORE Festival. and I'll implement designing the Stretch Festival for next week, make sure that happens. I spoke to Mary, and now she's on board and she's interested in doing the Summerhouse, which is a non-queer space. There's queer people go, but it's predominantly a space where we could maybe test out that dynamic around what it's like to be in that space and how we could sort of manage a new environment so that it's so it works. So that's everything. Thank you. Cheers.